Welcome back to the show, everybody, where we talk about all things sales and fitness. Today, I want to start with a direct question. Have you ever felt like there is a version of you that you're not fully letting out? There's a bigger version of you, a stronger version, a more disciplined version, but something's holding you back. Usually, it's not fear of what could happen, but it's fear of what people would think or will think about you. Most people spend their entire lives trying to make everyone around them comfortable, but the people we admire most never did that. They leaned all the way into themselves, right? Who they were, who they knew they needed to be. That 2.0 version is what I'm going to call it. Now, as I was preparing this podcast, I thought about how many times I've done that exact thing, held back because of fear of what other people may think about me. When you really look at examples of people that have been successful, and the way I'm using successful in this analogy is just people that are truly themselves, and you can tell, right? For example, Michael Jordan, one of the greatest athletes ever, if not the greatest. And you watch his documentary and you're like, man, a lot of people didn't like him. A lot of his teammates at the time, people said he pushed too hard. Some people thought he was too intense. Just imagine if Michael Jordan decided that he was going to make everybody feel okay and feel comfortable around him. Imagine if he decided to tone it down and relax and just not take things so seriously. He would have never been Michael Jordan, right? He leaned into that. I don't know if it's that inner dialogue with himself. He was able to just let it go and let it be, right? And then you have people like Kobe, very same, right? There was teammates that hated him. There was teammates that loved him, but he leaned into who he felt like he needed to be. And I've decided that there is a 50% rule. When you're on social media, when you're talking, when you're doing a podcast, when you're speaking about things, 50% of people are going to just think that what you're saying is a bunch of crap. They're not going to like you. They don't like the way you look. They don't like the way you talk. And then there's the other half that may, get some insights from you and enjoy that energy and that tenacity that you bring. No matter what, though, you cannot win trying to please the 100%. You got to build your personality around you and let the 50%, dislike you if that's what they choose to do, right? Because if you're not living authentically, it's going to hit to nobody. I've realized this in my life that nothing hits if you're not being authentic. And if you're not being authentic, yeah, you might be saying things that aren't going to piss off the 50%. But you're also saying things that is not resonating with anybody and not helping anybody get to that next level, including yourself. And when I really look back at my life, right, the times where I was excited and really living that next version of myself, I was doing something that I wanted to do, but I was pushing myself to the extreme or to that next level because in my mind, I knew that's who I wanted to become. And when I sit back and look, let's just take my high school. For example, played high school football. I was obsessed about getting a scholarship and I was obsessed about playing in the NFL. That was my dream. That was what I wanted to do. Honestly, thanks to my mom and dad for saying that I could do it and putting that in my head, right? And that's a whole nother tangent that I won't go down. But you don't get thoughts. You usually need to get direction from somebody to give you that idea, and then you can pursue it, right? So that's just props to my parents for doing that. But I wasn't halfway committed. I didn't care what anyone thought about me. I didn't care that I didn't really go out on the weekends and that I was just training every morning before school. And I was obsessed and I was just thinking about ways to get better and how I could get stronger and how I could eat better and all the different things. And when I tell my wife this story, she's like, man, you do not sound like someone that would be very fun in high school. And when I look back, I'm like, I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed things. Obviously, there's always the people that say, relax, just enjoy high school. Don't take things seriously. Those are all the people that don't have the results you want almost every single time. And not one single person that had done something great above me or older than me, or they all said, yeah, go for it, go all in, be your best version, and never stop chasing it. So you always have a choice, right? To listen to the people that say to relax, don't do things in extreme ways, don't be obsessive, right? And I've noticed the same thing with my health. When I went on my health journey and lost 60 pounds and got shredded, got six-pack shredded, I had to care. I had to care about what I ate. I had to care about my training. I had to care about my discipline. And a lot of people will judge you and say that that's too much, or you're too this, or you're too that, and just enjoy life. At the end of the day, those people have never done what you want to do. And so you really have to look at your life and realize the people that have gone out and done great things. Now, I'm not saying everybody has to be a Michael Jordan or a Kobe or whatever, but the mentality in whatever thing you're wanting to do does have to be very similar in how bad you want it, what's getting you up, right? The discipline, the hard work, the commitment. Because if you don't have it, you won't get where you want to go. As I get older, I see that more and more with myself, that I have to push myself harder. You have to do things that you don't want to do. And I think the biggest way that I can correlate this with my examples is being a dad. Now that I'm a dad, this hits even harder. People judge you with being a parent. People judge you with how you parent your kids. People judge you and say you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't be that strict, this and that. It's the same thing as being back in high school when they're like, oh, you should just enjoy. You don't need to get up at 5 a.m. and work out before school. You don't need to. That's what I was doing, though. Yeah, I don't need to do those things, but what if I wanted to do those things? What if inside me, that's what's calling me to be my authentic version of myself? I don't care what anyone else thinks, right? The same thing with parenting. I don't care that you think I'm too strict or that my son is gonna eat healthy from 1 year old to the rest of his life while he's under my roof, right? I don't care anymore what people think, because it's the same rule. Everyone's going to think you're doing it wrong until all of a sudden, for example, if you're a parent, your kid, is excelling in certain areas and other kids aren't. Because at the end of the day, you just have to ask yourself, am I being the father that I know my kids need? And it's not what my kids want, it's what my kids need. I'm realizing that as well. Obviously, your kids want the easy route, just like everybody in this world, right? But I want my son growing up, thinking what he wants to think and not shrinking from the version of himself. So I can't downplay that either. I have to show up that way if I want him to as well. I want him to be bold. I want him to be unapologetically himself. And I don't mean unapologetically himself, the bad version. Because you can flip this and be like, oh, just be unapologetically yourself, be lazy, sleep in, go drink, go party. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the unapologetical version of yourself, the Kobe Bryant, the discipline, the Michael Jordans, the discipline that it takes to be that version, no matter what other people think about you. Kids really do listen to what you say. And as I'm dad now, I really watch myself, because I want to teach him that. I don't want him to dilute himself. I want him to have a voice, and I want him to stand up for himself when other people think he's crazy or too extreme or too disciplined or too this or too that. Do all of that and do it at the best of your ability. I think that's really what I wanted this podcast to be about. There's always two versions you can wake up and become. The one that has all these dreams, ambitions, and desires and excitement about who you can become, or the version that shrinks under pressure, is scared to stand out, doesn't want to wrinkle any feathers, doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. You wake up and you're going to offend 50% of people anyway. So may as well be the authentic, best version of yourself, so you don't have any guilt and shame around being that version. And that's what I want my son to learn from me. And that's who I have to become if I want him to become that. People will judge you. People will think you're crazy. Some people will not like you. But that all is going to happen anyway. We've all seen it, right? On social media, the people that post, the people that don't. I don't want my son to be scared to post or be his authentic self in any version, in anything. Because the alternative in my mind is spending the rest of my life wondering what life would be like to just wake up and be free and be the best version of myself and don't care if I mess up here or say something wrong or offend someone here, because what would happen if you didn't hold back would be the biggest regret of my life. And I'm not willing to let that happen. I hope if you guys are listening to this, you think of that as well and really ponder, hey, am I living that version of myself? And what would happen if I didn't hold back?